If DEI is truly dead, then what's next? What is next for these guys, for these channels? I shudder to think what they're going to do if DEI is truly done and gone, buried, RIP DEI. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I just want to sort of brainstorm with everybody. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a good week. It is Monday if you're watching this video today. Hope everybody's having a good week. I've got two possible paths for these guys, but let me set the stage first, right? If DEI really is being wrapped up and balled up and thrown in the trash, and Hollywood is done with it, I would say the ramifications of that will be seen in the beginning of 2026. The beginning to the middle of 2026 is when we'll see these ramifications. So if Hollywood and entertainment is walking away from DEI, we have the rest of this year with stuff that's already been made coming out that will reflect what they would consider to be DEI. So, you know, gay stuff, women, people of color, all of that, right? And they love to scapegoat that stuff. That is part of their grift. It's part of their scam. It's part of their narrative. And so I thought about this, and if Hollywood is in fact shifting away, and it looks like they might be to some degree, do I think we won't see any more diversity at all in entertainment? No, I don't think that's the case. I think we're still going to see that stuff, but it's going to be in different ways. Like, it'll be more about the creators of the projects being in positions to make that kind of content versus what the studio is mandating or what they're trying to do long term. So we're still going to see it. But the initiatives, the DEI stuff that is coming from the studios, if that goes away, and it looks like, again, it might be, we'll see less of that in the Hollywood blockbusters, the big movies, the big TV shows that are coming out. And so what happens when that goes away and these guys have effectively won? Now, we talked about this a little bit on some of the podcasts, that their channels could not survive a drought of Hollywood doing things that they love, because their viewers don't want to hear that. The viewers don't want to hear about good stuff. So even if they're celebrating victory after victory after victory, the viewers still need to be upset and angry, because that is the way these channels have sort of indoctrinated their audience. So they still have to be mad about something. So they could probably go over like a bubble or a hump, a very small amount of time where there's not a lot of stuff to target. But at some point, they have to go back to the outrage stuff. They have to go back to the stuff that everybody hates. So follow me here. Two paths for them. There's only two ways they can go. They're walking down the road, down in the forest, and there's two trails they can follow. These are the two trails they're going to have to go for. And I know I'm going to be right. And before I get into that, if you go on to enjoy this video, please hit subscribe, become part of the channel here, leave a like, leave a thumbs up, which is the same thing. Leave a comment down below, and let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so the first possible course of action they could have, because trust me, flops will happen. We're going to see lots of flops after DEI is dead and gone, because DEI is not the reason for everything flopping. I know that they want you to believe that, but I'm telling you that's not the truth. Hollywood had massive flops. You can go back and look at the years where things did not perform well in Hollywood, and they date all the way back to like the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. There's times where Hollywood just doesn't do well. And it doesn't have anything to do with this DEI initiative. Like, this is their scapegoat. So we're going to have flops, and what's going to happen is they're going to start to point at each other, right? When it's all straight, white, cisgender men with the keys of the car, driving everything, they are in the front seat of every vehicle coming out of Hollywood. They're going to start to point fingers at each other and say, maybe you're not straight enough. Maybe you're not cisgender enough. You're too fashionable. Need to tone it down some. Maybe you are not married. You're not wifed up at 30. You don't got 2 kids. Maybe you need to have more children. That's what it is. You're not straight enough to be a part of all this. The DEI has infected some of the white guys, some of the straight white guys, some of the cisgender guys are now infected with DEI. And this is a holdover from that. So they're no longer straight, white, and cis enough. That's one of the paths we go down. So it becomes like a witch hunt within their community to find the guys who aren't performing at that level and start to weed them out. That's one path. The other path is creating this fantasy world where even though the studios have shifted away completely from DEI, there's no more DEI initiatives anywhere. They're all gone. They're going to make their viewers believe that DEI is still secretly happening in studios, like a deep state situation. And they're going to pretend that they have inside sources. You're going to see articles from all of the usual suspects, all of the clickbaity sites saying someone on set said that they're still doing DEI, or someone who works with this person said they're doing DEI, or somebody affiliated with the studio says they're still doing DEI, even though there's no initiative. They're going to have their viewers believing that DEI is still happening. And then what we're going to see is a lot of the projects that come out, some of the more niche projects or things that are spearheaded by someone who wants to have diversity in their project that doesn't need the studio mandating it, they're going to get targeted. So say, for example, you have a gay director who is making a movie and wants to tell a gay love story. They are going to target that. They're going to target the director. They're going to target the movie, maybe the actors in the movie, and they're going to claim that whatever studio is putting that out still has a DEI initiative. And that's the only way that this could happen. And that's one of the worst, like you think about it, that's one of the worst things to come out of all this, is that if you're a person who would be considered for quote unquote DEI situations, you're always going to be accused of being DEI from here on out. It's much worse than a slur. Now it's a question of your ability as a human being to contribute to the world by claiming that you are DEI, even when DEI initiatives are gone. And that is one of the things that I think we're going to see. Like if we're talking about the two paths here, the first one where they start attacking each other or claiming that everything is still DEI. I think the claiming DEI thing, the DEI thing is the most likely. And it's because they can just continue to grift off of like anytime a gay person is in something, or a woman or a black person or whatever it may be, they can still use that. It's a very easy, it's easy to slide into that. And there's less friendly fire by doing that. But if that doesn't work, they'll backtrack and go down the first path and start going after each other. I have to say, one of the things that I'm excited about in all of this, because let it be known, I don't, obviously I'm not excited that DEI initiatives are getting rolled back, but this is all capitalism. So the thing is, for me, I'm looking at it, I'm saying, these companies, a lot of them were performative, but you need the performative stuff. You need that. You need the pandering in order for people to have the opportunity to get into the game. So it did matter, but it was always a capitalism thing. It always was. I've never said otherwise. But you look at that, now that's gone. Now we're going to see, number one, which companies are real as fuck. Which ones are out there actually trying to do something and make something happen? Because even without the initiative, we're going to see if they still try and make movies and TV shows that allow people to have an opportunity to tell these stories. We're going to pay attention to that. The second thing is seeing where these guys go. How many of them survive this? Because I can tell you right now, not all of them will. Not all of these channels will survive the culling of DEI. They're not going to survive it. Because you look back, I had a list here of some of the things that they've complained about over the years. Obviously, Ghostbusters 2016 is the one that I noticed the first big bump from, and then The Last Jedi in 2017. And then we saw things like Captain Marvel, Terminator Dark Fate, Charlie's Angels, Rings of Power, Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones, the upcoming Snow White movie. So it's just been every year, they only need one or two things to sustain them. But once those things are taken away, once we don't see that kind of stuff coming out regularly, it's going to require some of these leech channels to follow that path. I think channels like Nerdrotic will probably survive this. Channels like Critical Drinker will probably survive this. I think they're big enough that they could survive a couple of years, because I do believe we have about 2 years of this to deal with because of political stuff, depending on what happens when we get to those midterms, right? I think we have about 2 years to deal with this before we start to see any sort of shift in any other direction. So do I think Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, some of the larger Geeks and Gamers channels surviving? Yeah. But a lot of those mid-level, low-level channels that have been grifting off of this, goodbye. Bye. You guys are gone. You're not going to make it. You're not going to survive it. Because what's going to happen is you have to be on the same page with all of this. And I think the larger channels will be cohesive. I think the smaller channels will not. Because you have to really think about this. People like Nerdrotic, he has a lot of people. Gary has a lot of people working with him to make sure that he stays on top of his game. Critical Drinker, same thing. Geeks and Gamers to some degree, not as big as these guys, but yeah, they're doing the same thing. And they've got the political stuff going. So I think they've got like a safety net in regards to that. But I do believe we're going to see some major changes in the way these channels operate by the beginning of 2026. Because we're already sort of seeing the ramifications of that now. Some of the stuff they're talking about is a little weird in terms of the kind of content they normally make. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. So in the comments down below, let me know what you think is going to happen now that DEI is dead and the studios are moving away from that. Do you think we're going to see less diversity in general, or do you think it's all just them saying they're getting rid of it, but they're not actually getting rid of it? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on all this and what you think is going to happen to these channels. So leave it in the comments below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.